On February 16, 1981, is when Arne Cheyenne Johnson fatally stabbed his landlord, Alan Bono, and then claimed that the devil made him do it. It is the first known court case in the United States in which the defense sought to prove innocence based upon the defendant's claim of demonic possession and denial of personal responsibility for the crime. This case is huge in true crime, huge in religion, and huge in horror. So the question is, what really happened to Arne Cheyenne Johnson? Before the murder, Johnson was by all accounts a regular teenager with no criminal record. He is a landscaper, a hard-working young man, loves sports, got a lot of baseball awards, and is into fishing, and usually goes fishing with his fiancée, Debbie Glatzel. But the eerie events that ended with the murder allegedly started months earlier. In Johnson's courtroom defense, he claimed that the source of all this suffering started with the 11-year-old brother of his fiancée, whose name is David Glatzel. According to a testimony by the Glatzel family, 11-year-old David Glatzel had allegedly played host to the demon that forced Johnson to kill Bono. After witnessing a number of increasingly threatening occurrences involving David, the family, desperate and taunted, decided to ask for the aid of the paranormal investigator and demonologist Ed and Lorraine Warren, who are probably best known for their involvement in the 1975 Amityville haunting, in a last-ditch effort to cure David. Lorraine stated in an interview that when she met David, she knew that he is in the very beginning stages of demonic possession. When they entered the home of the Glatzels, and as they were sitting there at the table, talking, she would watch David doodling or drawing. He'd be concentrating on what he was doing, and then he would look up, and it was no longer an 11-year-old boy. Ed Warren added that when he asked who is inside the 11-year-old boy, 43 entities was shown to him like a kaleidoscope of horrifying faces. Ed also added that he would become extremely strong, that 4 to 5 men will hold him down. They then refer the diabolical entity as the Beast. David had started to growl, hiss, levitated, speak in sinister voices in different languages, and recite passages from the Bible. Not just the boy is suffering, but also his family members. Judy Glatzel's mother reportedly said, "He spit at me, kicked me, squeezed me in the bust, and even attacked his own grandmother with a knife." So now maybe you are asking, what is the reason why David was possessed in the first place? David became possessed because his mother and sister unfortunately were fooling around with witchcraft with people they knew from upstate New York who are into satanic activities. This demonic entity made itself known for the first time in the house they rent in Brookfield, Connecticut, which David recollected that someone pushed him onto the bed and he can see an old man standing, wearing a plaid shirt, and that this old man appeared again in his bedroom, looking all burnt, had feet like a deer, and muttering Latin, and threatened to steal his soul. The Glatzels recounted how each night a family member would remain awake with David as he suffered through spasms and convulsions. The back then 18-year-old Arne Johnson would stay awake all night long and then go to work the next morning. But he made a fatal mistake. One night, he screamed at these devils, "Take me instead and leave my little body alone." He challenged the demonic presence and got what he wished for. The church considered the case worthy for their attention. By this time, 6 ordained priests, who some came from Vatican itself, were already involved in the case. These priests were very frightened of the things that Arne would say. The compassionate young man who never showed any type of violent behavior and would tremendously respect the priest. One of the priests then talked to Arne as he was so concerned about his welfare because of him challenging the demons. When you challenge the demonic, it doesn't act at that particular moment. It waits until you are the most vulnerable, and then it strikes. After receiving a prognosis of multiple possessions from the Warrens, David was subjected to 3 lesser exorcisms. Lorraine then said that David levitated, and he even predicted the murder Johnson would later commit. According to Debbie Glatzel, the 11-year-old boy then began to change after that night. She reported how he stood looking out of the window and said, "There he is, the beast," pointing out to Arne Cheyenne Johnson, who started crawling and acting sinister, which led to Debbie slapping her fiancé twice so he can come again to his senses. Johnson said that his final encounter with the demon, while completely lucid, is when he returned to the rental property and made an eye contact with it at an old well that supposedly housed the demon. The Warrens warned him not to do this. Debbie and Johnson decided then that it was time to move out of her mother's home, as Johnson's condition continued to worsen. Debbie was hired then by Alan Bono, a new resident in Brookfield, as a dog groomer. Debbie and Johnson began renting an apartment close to her place of employment, which is also owned by Bono. After moving in, Johnson started to exhibit odd behavior that was strikingly similar to David's, causing Debbie to fear that he had become possessed as well. According to Debbie, Johnson would fall into a trance-like state wherein he would growl, shout obscenities, and hallucinate, but later have no memory of it. She also then later claimed that on the day of the crime, she heard 2 horrifying demonic voices came out from Johnson's mouth. In October 1980, 4 months before the crime, the Warrens contacted Brookfield police to warn them that the situation with the Glatzel's household was becoming dangerous. But of course, no action was implemented. According to the testimony, Alan Bono took his employees, including Debbie and her 9-year-old cousin Mary, out to lunch on the day of the incident. Bono got drunk, grabbed Mary, and refused to let her go. Johnson attacked him with a 5-inch pocket knife. Witnesses described Johnson behaving like an animal, stabbing Bono repeatedly, mostly in his chest. It was then Lorraine Warren who called and informed the police while Johnson was in custody after the murder that Arne Johnson was under diabolical possession and he did not know what had happened for at least 2 hours, and in that 2 hours, he had killed Alan Bono. At the day of the trial, the judge did not allow the Warrens to bring in their evidence. The trial became a media circus. The judge ruled against the defense and just did not accept the claims of demonic possession. Johnson then changed his plea to self-defense and all the surrounding media attention vanished. The jury found Johnson guilty of first-degree manslaughter on November 24, 1981. He received a sentence of 10 to 20 years of prison. However, he only served 5 for good behavior. John and Debbie Glatzel got married while he was in prison, and after his release, they have 2 sons. Lorraine Warren then wrote The Devil in Connecticut with Gerald Brittle about the case. When the book was reissued in 2006, Debbie's brother Carl Glatzel sued for damages, calling the occult claims a hoax engineered by the Warrens, who, according to Carl, concocted a phony story about demons in an attempt to get rich and famous at their expense. And this year, 2021, the event inspired the premise of the film The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. So, what do you think of this case? Do you think he was really possessed, or was he a cold-blooded killer and everything is all a hoax? Make sure to let me know in the comments below. If you are expecting for more videos, please go ahead and click the subscribe button.